Ziegler, the Alpha Dawg, and this is the Dawg Pound. Okay, I promised you that we were going to have a whole handful of state presidents of various state dealer associations, and so far I haven't got them all, but I do have one of the stars of the show, one of my best friends in the dealer association world, my friend Bob Okonewski. Hey, Bob.
How are we all doing today?
We took a vote. We kicked everybody else off the
island. Okay, the dog pounders are all
much more
here.
fun than the other two.
Okay, wait a second. I think somebody just showed up.
I know Jason's trying to get in.
It's Don Hall. Better late than never. Virginia Auto Dealers. Hey, big guy.
Hey, how you doing? Good to hear your voice.
Oh, it's good to see you. We're still lacking.
Jason's trying to get in. He says.
Wilson.
Oh, Jason's trying to get in the show.
Yeah.
Send him a link, somebody.
He is trying. That is correct.
Okay. Very good. Anyway, while he's trying to get in the show, I'm going to introduce.
Kentucky just got the internet last year, so there could be some issues with the gerbils getting tired and stuff. Spinning those wheels.
Okay. Yeah. I hate they can't get on yet.
That's all right. We'll invite them in as we go. Let's talk about whatever we know would be frustrating for them that they would want to work against. We'll just knock it out before we let them in the show.
Or we can just talk about Jason.
Okay. Okay, we're waiting on Jason to get in. From that, the Empress. The Empress.
Sorry, I'm sending Jason the link on the email thread real fast.
Yeah. Okay. The Empress of Executive Management, Miss Jennifer Griggs.
Hey. Yeah, I'm going to send this to Jason, and I do also want to say, I know we were expecting, I guess there's some big stuff happening, a big meeting with the Senate in West Virginia. So we lost Jared on the show today, but
yeah,
all
Jared,
very important stuff.
We lost Jared, and we lost Mr. Milstead.
Did we lose him, or did we gain an opportunity to make a difference while there is a Senate?
Great opportunity! For the legislation.
Great opportunity
through there in West Virginia. So
okay, thank you. Direct from Moscow, Russia. the mad Russian himself, Max Zandon. Hey, big guy.
Hey, Jim. Listen, I'm really excited about the show. I mean, hope these guys can handle the questions.
We've got two of the very best, and of course,
well, the Alpha Dawg told me that there were multiple choice, so it's pretty easy.
Yeah. It's like one of us all will have something different to say. You just pick which one.
It's the only reason I got almost 1,600 on the SATs. Just pick and choose.
Good guess.
No idea what I was doing. They're giving you the answer. It's got to be right.
Okonewski said he's really worried with Don Hall on the show. He's not going to get a word in edgewise. So anyway,
there goes getting confidence in the future.
the queen of BDC, Bobby Heron.
I don't feel like there was enough enthusiasm behind that. I would like a do-over. I would like a do-over on my intro.
We need some warm-up music.
Directly from on-site in the dealership, working hard today, the queen of BDC, Bobby Heron.
So kind of you. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Okay, let's start with Don Hall, Virginia Auto Dealers Association. And Don, what is happening with all the dealer associations fighting back forward? I see where Honda just announced that they're going to sell cars directly and let dealers relegate back to being service centers. Chevrolet's talking about making Corvette a separate brand. So what I'm hearing is there's a lot of stuff happening with the manufacturer, a lot of maneuvers around the franchise laws. What are you seeing?
First of all, it's good to be with you and my other friends on today's call. It's funny, when I was trying to get in, couldn't figure out how to get in on this. I got a text from a buddy of mine who is a Navy SEAL who serves in the Virginia General Assembly. And here's the text. It's an article. Ford CEO wants to end haggling for electric car sales, and he's gotten 2/3 of U.S. dealers to agree. Now, all of us have seen that in the last couple of days. And I am woefully reminded this concept that 2/3 of the dealers have agreed is categorically untrue. Farley knows that. What he does know is that dealers at this point don't have many options today. And so thus they're going to go along with the program. As we all know, they're not writing checks for $1.3 million today, but they have the risk of being left out of something in the future. And they're depending upon Bob and I and many others that run the state associations to come up with potential fixes at the end of the day. And I certainly won't speak for Massachusetts, but we have some strategies in Virginia and other states who have similar laws to what Virginia has. And because I don't wish to dominate the time, I'll stop there for a minute and then I can answer some questions about that.
Okay, well, Ford is unconscionable. Before the show, April Simmons pointed out that dealers have not made a commitment to write a check for $1.2 million so far.
Yeah,
So
it's the pre-commitment, right? So anytime you're doing a facelift for a store or you're committing to something, there's like the pre-commitment to the pre-commitment to the pre-commitment. So I think everyone's still kind of in that pre-commitment phase, and Don couldn't have said it more perfectly than the way he did, which is, nobody knows exactly what the answer is or what to do, but obviously you don't want to get pushed out or get left in the dust. So there's a lot of just questions and nobody knows the right answer.
Well, first off,
Farley said that 1,900 dealers have signed up for the program.
Yeah, but let me address that for a second, because the first thing that came to my mind yesterday when I saw the number is where are they? I didn't see a breakdown by state where they are. So if you have all the dealers in California, you have all the dealers in some of the other Cal-Lev states that are signed on, because that's where the CARB rules are kicking in immediately for the manufacturers needing to sell the ZEVs. That's a big difference than if we're now looking at everyone in Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, and other states signing on. And there was no breakdown of that 19 and change of certified elite versus certified. So, I really would like to see the numbers before we start trying to dissect them and figuring out what it means.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, the headlines and the difference that they can make, because when those articles came out yesterday, I saw posted several times throughout social media today, was like them side by side. And one was Ford battles with dealers over EV sales plan. And one was Ford's got 2/3 of the dealers to agree. And it's amazing how those headlines will influence the people who read them to believe that that's actually what's occurring.
Yeah, that's what they're for.
Based on where they're getting right?
By design.
Yeah.
It's meant to lead you wherever, but it's frustrating from just, don't bite the hand that feeds you. It's like, yes, it's a pre-commitment. I realize these are not going to be the actual numbers that are working with, but I think Bob brought up a really great point. If Farley's so proud of all of these folks who've already signed on, let's look at the list.
Listen, I have a stupid question.
We were just been joined by Jason Wilson from Kentucky Auto Dealers.
You guys got Wi-Fi now.
Jason.
We made it.
Yeah, we have some Wi-Fi working now. I'm from platform, so sorry for the lateness. Glad to be with you all.
Welcome.
We're talking about Farley's announcement yesterday that 1,900 dealers signed up for the EV program. I don't believe it. Where are these dealers? I talk to hundreds of dealers monthly. I don't know these dealers. Did he just reach in, pull out of his anatomy? Where did he get these dealers?
No, I think dealers sincerely signed up because they didn't have any other choice. If you've been a longtime member of the Ford family, dealership family, like most of our dealers have been here in Massachusetts, you've enjoyed quite a bit of success being a Ford dealer, and they want to be Ford dealers. They just don't like certain aspects of this program as it's being offered to them. And what choice did you have? You either want to be a Ford dealer or not be a Ford dealer. And, I suppose by not doing anything, you could choose to roll the dice for a couple of years and then try to opt in 2025 if they let you. But I think as Don hit it on the head earlier is, sign up for the program and keep working for some changes. We've had conversations with Ford, and we've laid out that if they really made some changes and let dealers be dealers, instead of trying to dictate what the vehicle sales price is going to be and not being able to move off it, and dictating to a customer what the trade-in is going to be, and trying to create some sort of public facing charge.
Let's forget Ford for a second. What about Honda?
Well, the Honda thing is very problematic because not only is Honda, but it ends up being Acura too. And up here in the Northeast, those are very successful brands. And it's obvious that people are in love apparently with this Tesla model of trying to destroy the dealer network. But as we've all been hammering away for years, it's just not the right approach. As we see with Tesla,
let me ask Jason.
The Tesla numbers are flattening out as more of the legacy manufacturers are going to be rolling out their own EV products.
Right.
I've said this for years. Tesla will have 2% of the market share here. They're 2% of the market share here. They will continue to have 2% of the market share. As these other legacy manufacturers start rolling out better product, more attractive product, easily serviced product, because there's dealers everywhere. I think the Tesla model will fall by the wayside.
Agreed.
Let me ask Jason a question. Jason, is what Ford is doing legal? I see there's lawsuits in New York. There's lawsuits coming out of Arkansas. They're withholding certain desirable products from dealers if they don't comply with and sign up for the program. Is this legal?
Yeah, the question, right? There are a number of states that have statutes that this program, Kentucky being one of those. We wrote our letter to Ford, like several other states did. The specific statutes that we felt this program was a violation of, actually did not address any of those specific statutes in their simply made the blanket statement, as I think they did with all of the states, and that they felt the program. Let me go back to something that Bob said earlier, though, because I also agree that number may be right as far as that amount of numbers of Ford dealers that did sign up. I did a survey of my Ford dealers yesterday and just said, hey, what did you do? And at what level did you sign in? And 80% of them went ahead and quote, signed up for the program. Today, who knows? What that means next week, who knows? But they made that initial step. What's the option? You're essentially just putting yourself out to pasture and cut, the future offerings from Ford. So that number doesn't surprise me, Frank. There's nothing that actually has to be done today other than say, okay, I'm in, and then see where
they can still back out.
Sure. Right.
How about Virginia, Don Hall? Don Hall, how about Virginia?
Couple comments. One, in defense of my friend Jason, he's actually a macho, tough Marine, but his voice is coming over a little bit squeaky because of the lack of technology in Kentucky. So, Jason, you sound a little funny in the way you talk.
Yes, we're behind here.
But he's actually a tough guy. Like myself, he's a Marine.
Jason's still on the AOL dial-up, I think.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, listen, he's that little guy running across the screen.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Couple, two or three things to think about and talk about for a minute. First of all, just to fast forward for a second, on January the 11th, a Wednesday, and a month from now, we will be dropping in a bill in Virginia that will prohibit the agency model in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I've given that bill, shared it with many of my peers. Unfortunately, many of them, for various reasons, are not taking on that legislation. I am talking about it nationwide to cause others to kind of jump on this bandwagon, but it will make it abundantly clear the very things that you're talking about, OEMs cannot do, number one. And I think we have an obligation to do that and to have those fights before the legislature. Now, two, as much as I love dealers, and Jim, you and I are the old salts here in terms of working on this industry. I'm 40, almost 44 years.
Speak for yourself.
Well, you're a long time in business. But this is a compliment, Jim. It's a compliment to both of us in our careers. Dealers have got to lead from the front and take possession of this issue as well. Meaning they can't just sort of sit behind, the doors and saying, this is so bad. Are you willing to put your resources at risk? Are you willing to speak loudly? As an example, last week, I believe it was last week, I talked to some dealer council members who were in Phoenix for the dealer meeting to deal with Ford. And those dealer council members, this is nothing new to me in my long career. They're unwilling to challenge because they feel like they
They're
get
not
something.
angry. I don't see the angry dealers.
There
I
is
don't
not.
see anger.
There is not. Let me make a comment that is very controversial, but I believe this with every fiber of my being. Absolutely.
We don't allow controversial statements on this show.
Well, hold tight, man,
You
Jim.
support them.
You won't invite me back after this one. You'll support this one, I promise you. And that is this. This entire issue of EVs is all about politics. That's what it's been from day one. That's what it is today. That's how it's been funded. It's all about politics. When Washington changes, I wouldn't be surprised the Republicans in control of the House now will slow things down as it pertains to EVs. When Washington changes, finally, you will see that these manufacturers will back down rapidly. There is no way between batteries, charging station, and many other reasons that these OEMs can go all EV in 35 or 30. I predict a day where Ford will have hybrids, they'll have ICE, they'll have electric, they'll have hydrogen. Toyota's right about the things they're saying. And so the dealers, what is on our side is time. The longer it takes for implementation, the more the OEMs go, oh crap, we have really screwed up here. We cannot do this. We're willing to admit it now because Washington has changed. And therefore, thank goodness we didn't spend these huge monies. Now, Jason's comment about states. Most of us have laws that say, if I'm a Ford dealer or a Honda dealer or a Lincoln dealer or a Toyota dealer, whatever it is, I get my fair share of makes and models within that division of Honda, Toyota, Ford, whatever else. So we don't have that case to make until dealers are unfortunately discriminated against vis-a-vis not getting EVs. Once we have that, I feel certain we've got a hell of a case. We've got strong laws in the nation, and we've got the ability. NADA is committed massive resources with the right case, but you have to be able to show damage and not just words, but that they're actually doing something. And so,
wait a minute, Don, what about the New York lawsuit with Rich Sox, the attorney, and a group of attorneys and representing a couple of dealers? Where's that going to go?
Well, I think this is more about attorneys and attorneys making money and beating on their chest, makes everybody feel good. You can't show at this point that they're not getting product. All they have is words.
Right.
We don't have a program that's been put in place. You can show damage when all of a sudden now there is a program actually out there and dealers are not getting them. Yes, I hate to wait that long. I think these lawyers are just out making money and it sounds good and they're beating on their chest. God bless them. They've been doing it for years. I don't have a problem with that. But at the end of the day, it's a false sense of security. The real lawsuit is going to be in a state where dealers, when they have this strong law in place, and dealers say, wait a minute, I didn't sign up, but I'm entitled to these products, and therefore you have to give them to me. Let's go to court.
So, Don, how do you think then the movements to separate some of these EVs into their own brand is going to play into that effect, where it's not the same brand that I have a franchise agreement on now, it's a different brand altogether, because we've already seen some movement.
as an example, in the law that we're proposing, effective January the 11th, it makes it clear that any OEM that owns more than 25% of a subsidiary, any other company, then dealers have all the rights and so forth. There is some concerns that today, if they split off, what the laws say in the country, we never ever contemplated the laws. We didn't write laws to deal with today's world. We didn't think of a Tesla ever being developed in terms of selling direct. We didn't think of OEMs splitting off. And so our laws are sort of behind. That's why it's great if you want to go to court, but you got to have, Bob is a great lawyer on this call today. He can attest to this. You have to have the laws in place. And you got a hell of a better case when you show the damage. But to answer your question, that the subsidiaries are going to be considered part of the franchise. You cannot separate the Scout, internet, what we used to call the International Scout by VW, is still a VW, no matter what you call it, no matter what paint it looks like, whatever else. It's a VW, and therefore in the Virginia, you've got rights, and that's when we'll have an opportunity. But again, finally on this, part of my frustration is dealers are being way too passive. And this is a time in their life where they need to be fighting, speaking, supporting the political action committees that these states have, supporting the legislative process that we've got in place, supporting the association, or firing who's there if they're not doing their job, but get involved, get engaged, not sit back and say, we'll worry about it tomorrow, because right now we're in this month. The curse of the 30-day cycle kills our industry in so many ways, long-term wise.
Yeah.
Jason, what is KADA doing as far as any programs, anything you're doing to, not just Ford, but the manufacturers in general, the agency model?
In Virginia and some of my peers in other states, we're actually working on for this upcoming General Assembly session as well to address these. Look, you have to really identify some specifics here, and so vague and so open to interpretation. And we are just seemingly each year going of finding ways to deviate from the franchise system. And as I've said, the franchise system has been under assault for years and will continue to be. And here, working with our various partners, is coming up with some of that language that in a specific manner, strengthening these franchise laws. An example is a great one with the Scout. Look, if you're a VW, the Scout is a VW. That is the thing. To try and
the Scout is a VW, absolutely.
To try to come up with these fragmented ways to define things on, and it's up to each of the states to fight that in their general.
Is it a fragmented way to define it, or is it the ability to cause a workaround that goes around our franchise laws and be able to just do what they want? Because that's what it seems like to me.
That's what we're seeing.
Let's lay it right out there.
Yeah, and
I mean,
that's what we're seeing a lot of right now.
Bob, what do you think?
About what?
The franchise law.
The last 10 minutes of conversation, did you fall asleep?
Well, we need your legal advice here, Bob.
No, you guys covered a lot, and I'm choosing to ignore some of it because I don't want to get in trouble. But for starters, we took care of that problem on direct sales over 20 years ago when we did a rewrite of our franchise law. Got passed in 2002, where we strongly prohibited the sale of vehicles via manufacturer directly without a dealer. And we also included subsidiaries and all that. So
is Ford not going to be able to do it in your state?
I'm sorry?
Is Ford not going to be able to do it in your state? Have you got such legal protection they can't do it?
Well, we sent a letter to Ford arguing on the, if we want to talk about the Model E for a second, we feel that the proposed program in its current form is illegal under Massachusetts law. And there's a number of states who've also filed letters with Ford saying that. Unfortunately, I think as Jason said, you didn't get any type of substantive response back from Ford other than to say that this is a voluntary program. Now, I've got military members in my family who will tell you that graveyards are filled with volunteers, and you can be made to volunteer. And I think you have two parallel tracks here. The dealers are going to need to do what the dealers need to do to stay a viable business presently. And signing up for a program is the step that they need to take to stay viable presently. At the same time, the associations are going to undertake actions to protect those dealers so that the programs that they're going to operate under in the future comply with the law. And, I've got people who will tell me that over the last few days that there's no way Farley's going to change any of this, that he's committed to it. He's too far out in front, in love with the Tesla model and extracting money from dealers because Ford feels that the dealers are too profitable. But the dealers are going to need to do what they need to do to stay in business. And it's up to us to keep fighting and making sure the programs are rolled out in a way that comply with law, current law. Now,
I'm glad that you said that, Bob, because as Don was being controversial, saying it was about politics, I was like, well, partially, but also there are some of the folks at the heads of these manufacturers that are infatuated with the cool kid whose business model is profitable, but I don't know why they think he's the cool kid. So I think a lot of it is that, and I 100% agree. They're trying to replicate something that's not proven when we have a franchise model that has been proven for how long?
And that's the point we've also made to Ford, is that I don't understand why you have to get into pricing and trade-in values and public facing. Just let the dealers be dealers. You can structure the distribution and retail sale of EVs in a way that enhances your dealer network. And for the life of me, I don't get it. But they seem committed to it right now. Unfortunately, I've talked to a number of Don and Jason's colleagues in the South, and the bigger issue at hand is, we're a CARB state, we're a CalZev state. So, we signed on to that craziness in the mid 90s when we passed the law that says, you can look at the law. It says we have to do everything that CARB says, right? It's ridiculous, but 30 years of that now, and we'll get solar powered lawnmowers at some point. Unfortunately, when you look at it and you look at the handful of states that are two states that have trigger laws, and you look at the up to 15 states that are wedded to CARB in some form, there's a disparate impact at a federal level on how this program operates, because you're asking the dealer in East Nowhere land, Southern Illinois, to come up with the same amount of money and same financial commitment to be a certified elite as you are an individual who's a Ford dealer in Metro Boston, which is a major popular.
Kentucky, for instance.
I'm just saying that there's a disparate impact here at a federal level in how these dealers are expected to be complying with the program, and yet the impact to them. We've made the point to Ford a number of times. There's no commitment in this program to vehicles. There's no commitment on proper allocation to vehicles, especially to the CARB dealers. And, that's a huge problem. I put in our letter that if you're going to come up short with allocation, then there's got to be some financial flow back to the dealers.
There is no financial reward
that they're throwing out there to be in the program. And if you're not going to give them
fact, Honda, Honda is telling dealers they're going to relegate them back to being service centers, and they're not going to participate in the sale or profit of a sale of a Honda.
So question-wise, okay, let's go from an OEM perspective. And before anybody jumps on this train, I don't agree with them, obviously.
I was going to say, are you sure?
Yeah, because I think it's important sometimes, because I'm listening to Bob, a smart guy who knows what he's doing. And I'm listening to you, and what I'm trying to think is, if a dealer hears this message from you guys, does it make sense to them, to everybody in the dealership? And sometimes it doesn't. So when we look at it and we say, I don't know why Ford would do this, absolutely we know why they would do it, because they don't care which dealership sells the car. They care that they keep their market share against the other OEM. We know why they're doing that part, right? The pricing. I don't know that
there's one thing here.
Yeah, but if I may jump on that for a second, I make this point to Ford all the time, is that you have a potential here to devalue the franchisor and the franchisee. Because if you've structured a retail sales process that the customer is not happy, right? This is all about making the customer happy. And if you've structured a process that is going to be detrimental to the consumer, if I'm looking to buy a Ford product, right, you're going to set the price, and I can't shop that price from dealer A to dealer B to dealer C. Right. And you're going to try to set my trade-in value, and I can't get that change from dealer A to dealer B to dealer C, all within 20 miles of me, then, maybe I'm not interested in buying a Ford. Maybe I'm going to go to Toyota or Honda.
But this is a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. It's a Taylor Swift thing, right? It's a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. It's always a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. And my jam is customer service. Everybody knows that. So I'm so glad you just co-signed that message. Thank you very much. But that's a huge part of it, though. If I'm a brand loyalist, or I'm trying to take up market share in a market, I've got 10 dealers that aren't doing it all right, or they're all doing it different, then can I control the set of dealers, or can I control the other manufacturer? Guess what? I can control the set of dealers. I don't agree with any of this at all, but I don't think there's a question as to why it's happening. But I do think there's a question in the dealership of how do they make a change? How do they make a difference? What do they do to help with this stuff, or what can they do?
Because for years and years, Bobby, Ford has discriminated, in my opinion. I said my opinion. That was shit. Okay, in my opinion, in my opinion, Ford has discriminated. Ford has discriminated against the rural dealers. Their General Motors was calling them the Main Street dealers, and Ford was calling them the select dealers. So this is a move, in my opinion. There's that my opinion stuff again. But in my opinion,
this is an attack on the heartland, Jim. Just say it.
This is a war to get rid and divest themselves of the smaller franchise dealers that they have a life commitment.
But how are those of us who live in the middle of nowhere?
You're exactly right, though. But that's what I mean when I say, why are we always saying that we don't know why? Look, I spent the majority of my career as a dealer operations director for a massive group and as a general manager, not in the VDC side of it. And a lot of Ford stores were a part of those things. But I think we all remember back to 08, 09 when GM went through the whole, we're going to shut everybody down. We're going to have this whole thing, Stellantis, huge situations there. So if you're a major manufacturer who wants things to go to online, isn't this a smart strategy? And everybody watching is just letting them do it. We're watching them do it. We say
it's going to fail. It's going to fail. First of all, direct sales is going to fail.
But it's not going to fail before it damages the dealership.
Ford can't produce an ordered car in a year. They got Broncos out there for a year that have been ordered. They can't build a car to order. I mean, what the hell are they thinking?
It's not going to fail before the damage is done.
He's incompetent. Farley better dust off his resume.
Come on, April, jump in. I saw you there. Come on.
So here's what I really think as we sit here today, as things are transitioning, a lot of decisions have been made during the pandemic time, and certain things worked during the pandemic time that would never stand the test of time before or after, right? So certain things went that direction. But as we sit here today, toward the end of 2022, what we all know is that anybody who went against the franchise model that has worked forever and ever is failing. Tesla's going down. Why? Because now customers need their vehicle serviced and they can't do it. Carvana is T-minus 2 minutes before they go bankrupt. So anyone who's got...
Interrupt you 1 second, April, get this. Mark Royce, you just said something. Mark Royce, president of General Motors, just said that they are doing 11,000 repairs on Tesla. That one of the biggest side businesses for General Motors dealers is repairing Teslas.
Correct. Okay,
go ahead.
The only thing stronger than politics and the only thing stronger than power is
a good lobbyist?
With money. It's money. And so at the end of the day, the consumers who have the money will be making a lot of these decisions. And so a lot of the things that are being decided today will end up going to the wayside, in my opinion, because ultimately the consumer decides. The consumer that has the money that buys these things is going to be the deciding factor. And I think there will be some variances, but as we sit here today, I don't think dealers really have a choice, but everyone feels like we have to go along with the flow, because what else are we going to do about it? So if there are things, actionable items, I think that's the one thing that nobody has said. What is the actionable items that the dealers can do besides just saying get involved? Give me a top 10 list of do this, do that. You know, here's a petition. Here's, hey, sign this letter with me. Whatever the case may be, what are those things to ensure that we start working on the groundwork for the future and making sure those laws are right and tight for the future, knowing that we tighten down the agencies and we tighten down all these opportunities that are going to keep rearing their heads. Even if it gets shut down today, it's going to come back up. The next time something happens that causes a swing, what do we need to start doing today?
I have been very critical of NADA, and Mike Stanton, my good friend Don Hall, to get in touch with Mike Stanton to give NADA another chance. And I'm thinking that NADA is marching onto the battlefield, new leadership. And what do you see NADA doing, Don Hall?
I'm going to be offensive now for sure, and I apologize in advance. When we talk about,
you're offensive all the time.
Yeah. When we talk about, we have laws on the books, those laws on the books that Bob's referring to, I had a number of states that allowed Tesla in with no fight whatsoever. And we're naive enough to say we're only going to let them have 4 locations. The law says they can't do it. They did it anyway. I spent 6 years in court, over $1 million to get my ass kicked. And part of the argument was they're already doing it in all these states. The problem is this, ladies and gentlemen, our laws are outdated. My peers are freaking lazy and aren't willing to do what needs to be done. Ask Bob and others, why aren't you doing an agency bill 2023? They all have their little reasons why they're not. But the fact is, it gets to the heart of what you're talking about. Now, at the end of the day, we will litigate. It will be litigated. It'll be tied up in court for years. Unfortunately, more than likely, they'll be able to continue doing business in the interim, so people will be hurt. But it's the only way we can prevail. So it's a matter of being able to litigate, having laws that contemplate. We never contemplated 20 years ago a manufacturer ever selling direct or creating spinoff. It was never. It was around. It was never.
It was never even on the radar screen. We never saw this coming.
The laws have to be updated now, today, so that we can go in and fight against direct selling, fight against giving up. You know, and by the way, Mike Stanton, to answer your question, has told me point blank that NADA, with its board, will be committed to the right case in the right state, and that doesn't mean Virginia, wherever it might be, where we have laws that give us a reasonable chance to prevail. Not where we're just making lawyers rich and we say, oh, well, we tried. This is too critical. It's too important for our future and for our past. We must win. And states must be looking at anti-agency language today for 23 session, not waiting on this. They must do it now, because your current laws don't mean a damn thing. And anybody who says they do is not telling you the truth, because it didn't stop Tesla and it doesn't stop Ford from doing what it's doing right now.
All but 17 states carved out exceptions for Tesla. Only 7 states were true to their laws and did make an exception for Tesla.
The Ford letters, Jim, nothing. The Ford letters make us all feel good. And we go, hey, we sent the letters out. Hey, I'm trying. I'm working hard. No, you're going to have some language that is current language dealing with today's world as we know it, and then be prepared to litigate and spend millions of dollars against Ford and NADA.
We're going to have to get some dealers with testicular fortitude to go do this.
I guess you're going to need more women as dealers, huh?
Yeah.
We should probably work on that.
Sure. My chairperson is a woman and tough.
Look,
let me get Max. Let me get Max. Max, the curmudgeon has not said a word.
No, he was real quiet. He wanted to stick up for Tesla. I could see it on his face.
Behaving.
No. So I just want to make a simple argument. So Tesla doesn't have dealers. So Tesla took it upon itself to build the supercharging stations, to build the charging station across the country. So if other OEMs want to be like Tesla, right? You're either pregnant or you're not. So be like Tesla all the way, build the station, stop passing the buck to the dealers, right? Because the 1.2 million for Ford or $900,000 for Buick or whoever else, right? It's all about building this charging infrastructure. And I'm not old enough to remember when they made the internal combustion engine cars, right? Did they ask dealers to build gas stations, to build the infrastructure across the country? I don't think so. At the end of the day, let the market decide. This is what Jennifer and I think April was saying. The consumer will vote with their wallet, right? And if the consumer wants the electric cars, then everybody will figure out private capital will flow into building the infrastructure on a national scale. You know, right now, consumer is voting for internal combustion engine vehicles across all makes, across the entire country, even in California, right? There's still more buyers for internal combustion engine cars.
Yeah,
So
especially since their power grid can't keep up with
Exactly.
I mean, but this is the thing. This is, and I say this every single time. Look, we know I like EV vehicles. The customer should always have an option. I'm customer centric. I want the customer to be able to decide what they want and how they want to buy it and when. But let's be a little alarmist for just a moment. If you give all of the customers the opportunity to have a convenient way to shop without having to haggle anything, without having to make it be difficult, where it doesn't take 27 freaking hours at a dealership, might be surprised by just how many people actually elect that option and how quickly the franchises, those laws change because they can prove that that's what the customer wants. I mean, think about this for a minute. Polaroid, great example.
You don't need to be Tesla to do that. I do it right now. I look for a vehicle I want online. I do the research. I see what dealers might have the inventory. I talk to the dealers. I figure out the car I want, price. I go to the dealer and I cut the deal.
All due respect. Oh my God. Are you kidding? We're going to need a different show for that. That is not true at all for a consumer. Do you really believe that that's how a customer buys online?
That is true.
It is not customers. I know friends of mine who do that. Their homework ahead of time online. They figure out the car they want, the price. They find the dealer and they go and cut the deal. That's the way it works.
I'm going to table this conversation to a more appropriate time, but I will tell you that maybe this is part of the problem. Maybe this is part of the problem, though. Like, think about this for a second from a consumer standpoint. We think about Polaroid, right? This is a great example of Polaroid. I was watching House of Lies the other night, and they were saying, in 1948, Polaroid sold its first camera. And in 1978, at the height of their business, they sold 13 million. Less than 30 years later, they filed for a Chapter 11 because people think the past is the present. It is so important. We're on the same team. It is imperative, though, that dealers understand why they need to stand up and fight. Because when we say things like a consumer wants to shop this way and let's just let them try it, we end up with Amazon and we end up with Tesla and we end up with Carvana. And that message just has to be more clear. I'm with you. I disagree that it takes an hour to buy a car. And if you bought a car in an hour, it's because they knew who you were.
You can buy a house in an hour online, for crying out loud.
Yes, you can. That's why it's such a shame that you can't buy a car. And that is why the OEM.
I'm tired. I am so tired of people ragging on the dealers like they don't know what they're doing. They've been serving the consumer for a century and they've been doing it well.
I'm on your side.
They've been adapting. The COVID forced a lot of them to adapt a lot quicker, but they've been adapting to the current marketplace. They all have a presence online. They all have inventory online. If you got off your butt and actually, got off the YouTube and everything else and actually set your mind to looking for a vehicle that you need that fits your wants at your price, you can do it rather easily.
Bob. YouTube is a great place to put your ads, though, Bob. Don't tell them to get off YouTube.
And Google owns YouTube, and it's the second largest search engine.
Let me get Jason
Wilson so often too.
Let me get Jason.
Bob, I'm with you, but that doesn't change anything. And if you can't connect with
Bobby, Jason's up. Okay, Bobby, KADA. What initiatives are you doing in your state right now besides writing the letter? Don Hall said a lot of dealers are writing letters, and that's about the extent of it. What are you guys doing? Your sound is not working.
There's no sound.
We don't have any sound.
hang on.
There's no sound.
I had you cut off. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah.
Don cut
this
you
is
off again.
Off. That's nothing new.
I had you cut off. I thought it was Bobby.
Look, somebody said it earlier, and we've talked to leaders. Yes, we write these letters, we work on legislation, we do all these things. Saying that is equally as important as you have dealers who raise your hand that are willing to, yes, this dealer in the person, I am opposed to this. I will say it. I will make that argument. And part of the issue we have is, and there are a lot of dealers doing that. It was mentioned earlier about biting the hand that feeds you, etc. So there is this. Friend Don's passion is evident earlier, and frankly, pervasive in the dealer community, because this is the fight. Now is the time. Just really do need to let their voices be heard. One of the other items that we're doing, council folks earlier as well. Well, we're writing those people for Kentucky, receive something from us, is receiving something from other dealers saying, hey, you represent us. So it's just another way to get that and be heard. But so I think it's a combination of doing various things, but ultimately you have to tighten up your. Once that's done, you have to have dealers ready to enter the fight. We can have the greatest.
There it is.
But how do they? Because April asked that
Finally
question
said it.
earlier. How can
You've
the
got to
dealers
have dealers
enter the
ready
fight?
to enter the fight. You've got to have dealers ready to enter the fight.
And there are some
And
doing that in some states, as you know. You have dealers that have publicly and are actually contesting this, and that's the step that be done. That's why we write these laws. That's why we have these laws. And unless you're going to check on when those are being overstepped upon, you know.
Well, NADA got very legislation shy back when Ron Tunkin and the Rough Riders, and they were really fighting some of the manufacturer abuses, and they got stepped on rather hard. Don Hogg, jumping on that.
Well, look, I can't speak to the past. It is what it is. I'm not going to say I was a happy camper during those days, but I think today all trade associations are coming to understand clearly we have to have more than just words. We have to have actions. We must, and it's not just a phrase, ladies and gentlemen.
You're facing extinction. You are facing extinction.
Well, then
you are going to be sucked down in the tar pits if this thing wins.
I'll go down with a fight, and that I will attest to. But my point is, dealers have got to be engaged. Instead of, dealers are great in that they survive all things and everything. But this is a time in our history where the idea of manufacturers taking over the selling process and taking over inventory and taking over everything part of your business, it is the demise of the franchise. And people will hate themselves before it's all said and done. We have the ability to come together as an industry, check our egos at the door, that includes me, and be aggressive with the right lawsuit. And NADA, I know, will be supportive to make sure the franchise system goes on. By the way, without going into a lot of details, I've talked to Jim at length recently. I am convinced and willing to make the following statement publicly today. And this is based on facts that I'm not in the position to be able to reveal at this time. I do not believe that GM today has any interest nor any desire for an agency model. And you're just going to have to trust me right now. At some point, I'll reveal to you why I know that. GM does not. Now, Ford, Honda, Stellantis, and many others, BMW and other, importers do. Obviously, Toyota would not. But GM today has convinced me, based on some things I'm dealing with, that their interest is not but to see the franchise system continue on. And that is something I stand behind to share with you and your audience today as well.
I have also got that feeling because I've had some talks with GM executives, and I've seen GM's direction. But now, if GM makes Corvette a separate franchise, or if some of those shenanigans are still
That's a problem.
possible.
Yeah, that's a problem, Jim. I heard you say it earlier, and as a big Corvette guy forever, I heard that, and I look forward to seeing how they do that. But as of right now, I would say that they are not, and they would find themselves not disagreeing with any attempts to make sure the franchise law protects status quo of the dealer relationship and the franchisor relationship.
I would agree with that.
I would just say, Jim, that they could not do that under Massachusetts law. As I said half an hour ago, we contemplated direct sales from a factory. We contemplated factory-owned stores 20 plus years ago. So we have the language in our law. So,
but Bob, let me go. Let's just do it right now. The law says we can't drive past 55 in the interstate, but damn if we don't drive 75 all day long. It's nice to say we have a law. It's great. It was a law written before it ever contemplated today's environment. It sounds good. It doesn't mean a damn thing until you litigate the courts opine on the subject.
I've said that forever. You know, laws could be.
So
You
how
could have
the
the
law
best law
doesn't
on the
matter?
books. You could have the best laws on the books unless someone wants to use them. It doesn't mean anything. It's collecting dust.
But it's a step. Okay, that's a step.
The reason I had all you guys on the show
that don't
Go
have
ahead,
anything.
Jennifer.
I was just saying, you know, I agree.
There are
Don,
there are
that
states
something
that
from
don't have
20 years
anything.
ago.
There are
Right.
states that do not have anything.
Exactly. So at least
The
something.
reason I had everybody on the show, the reason I had the state association executives on the show was I want to see what you guys are going to do to fight the abuses. You know, we know they're breaking the law. I mean, that is not even, Don Hall is 100% right. They are breaking the law. That goes beyond my opinion. That's my belief. So I believe they're breaking the law. What are we going to do about it? That's the bigger question here.
Jim, I think Don makes another great point that, you know, the dealer engagement is just not there, right? And I might say something very controversial here, but, you know, the last 2 years made a lot of dealers fat and lazy, right? And when you're fat and lazy, you stop being alert. You lose your instinct of self-preservation. You think that you become invincible, and you think that it's never going to happen. It's happening in parallel universe, but it's not. And Don Hall is right.
They don't want to fight the hand that feeds them either.
Right. So the dilemma here is, how do you start getting dealers engaged? And I think at the end of the day, it's up to each state association to literally knock on doors like they do during elections, right? You knock on doors of each and every dealer principal and bring it to their attention, because without dealer engagement, no matter how aggressive Don and Jason and Bob are, right, I don't think we're going to get a lot of things done, right? And again, without dealer engagement, we're dead in the water. So that's my 5 cents here.
And
Without the ability to communicate with the dealer for them to understand it, you run into the same problem.
If I can add to that, this isn't just the dealer. This is the general manager. It's the fixed operations manager. It's the F&I manager. It's everybody who's committed to this industry, who wants to see their life continue on based on
our livelihood is at stake.
In our side, in the dealership side of the industry, though, in the dealership side of the industry, when we say dealer or vendor, dealer is the encompassment of everything. And so, but when you guys are speaking, you say dealer, you mean the dealer itself. And so that's what I was trying to say with Bob earlier, is there is a language barrier that is happening between you and the people that you are trying to represent. Unless you just want to talk to just the one that writes the check, and then you're probably doing just fine defending them for things they shouldn't be defended for.
Ronald Reagan said it best: you bargain from a position of strength. Jim Farley does not respect today our position of strength. We have got to dial in our position of strength. And then he will, and Mr. Ford will have to say, wait a damn moment. Wow, I had no idea how strong and how they coalesce as an industry. We have got to back down, and we've got to work with the dealers who built us, and our old man who built this franchise system 110 years ago. That will happen, but it has to mean we have to come together, check our egos, and it's about the entire industry and the tens of thousands of people that work in it nationwide.
Okay,
Doing
come on. How do we get it?
I gotta tell you, I just wrote an article in Digital Dealer magazine called "If You're Not In, You're Out." It's gotten 25,000 views. I mean, it's going viral. And what I talked about was that the big public companies are all forming their own private brand, not franchise-related used car superstores. Echo Park, all these used car superstores being created by Group One, Penske, all these people. They are ditching the factories. CarMax just gave back 2 profitable Toyota franchises because they want to be in the used car business and have no manufacturer interference. So the big publics are already abandoning some of the manufacturers, and they're not putting up with this. They're going a whole different direction.
Not just the big publics, Jim. Some even, mid-sized groups are making those exact same types of efforts where you're going to be centralizing your used cars and then, handling the franchise separately. It's not just the big guys. I'm seeing groups from 8 stores up to 30 stores doing the exact same thing.
Listen, I want to make one more controversial statement. If I'm a Volkswagen dealer, I would encourage Volkswagen to go direct to consumer with the Scout brand. And I am dying to meet one person on planet Earth who's looking for a Scout.
That is absolutely the truth. Unbelievable. April, I know you've been jumping up and down. You look like a little puppy all excited over there.
Well, we keep talking about dealers need to get involved. Dealers need to get involved. Dealers need to get involved. I have the one big question. How does the GM, the fixed ops director, how do they get involved? They don't know. Most of them, first of all, don't even know any of this is going on or how it might impact them down the road, how it might impact them tomorrow. How does somebody get out of the gate? What is the first step that somebody needs to do to say, hey, I definitely want to do something. I don't know what to do.
Can I help you
Hall.
with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
All of us send out email blasts. All of us have Zoom and regional meetings. We have meetings that involve all levels of management. I've got a couple this month, as a matter of fact, with large dealer groups, inviting any and all managers. Bob does the same thing. Jason does, and all of our peers nationwide. So it's the dealerships have got to say to their association, hey, what meetings you got coming? If not, why not? I'd like to sign up, put me on your email list. What can I do to help? I've got people wanting to come to the legislature in 23 that are managers who say, I care about this business. I want to work in it for the next 25 years. What do I need to do? And that's something they need to show the initiative to do. Associations are there. They're willing to embrace, and they could use the help because we have small staffs, and we could absolutely use the help. So step up.
Do your e-blast link to a special page on the dealership, on the state association website so that, is there something we can tag in this broadcast?
Yeah, well, anybody can sign up. All of us have the ability to sign up for our emails and so forth, working at dealerships, and many non-dealership people that are vendors and sponsors that work with the industry as well. But the answer is we would welcome any and all, and we do meetings on these subjects all the time. But I will tell you, people get hunkered down, end of the month, bad month, good month, lack of inventory month, and they use excuses, all of which I truly understand. But this is big that's going on right now. We got to be involved.
Okay, so as we wind down, this hour has flown. I don't know what we accomplished today. I want to see the national organization, NADA. I want to see Mike Stanton. It's public knowledge. I was never a big Peter Welsh fan. I'm not a Peter Welsh fan, but I'm thinking that the NADA under the current leadership is going to march on the battlefield, and I think some things are going to happen. Let's see. I want to thank Jason for sort of being here today.
Listen, I feel your pain. I just got fiber out here in Indiana. I feel that pain on the connection.
I think you just got fiber optic. Jim, I think the one thing we learned is at our next ATAE meeting, we need to take a collection up to get some funding to Jason to improve his Wi-Fi capabilities.
It just
Yeah,
shows
maybe
how
satellite,
great
like,
Yeah, do another email blast.
Yeah,
maybe
except nobody
satellite,
reads those.
they need satellite in Kentucky. We don't have fiber optics, Bob. Yeah.
Well, you know, they shut down all the coal plants, so they can't power them up.
I met one of the guys from Kentucky who was wearing one shoe. I said, "Sir, you've lost a shoe." He said, "No, sir, I found one."
No, y'all are rough.
Okay, this is a great show. Hey, Jason, thanks for being a good sport about that, by the way. Okay, everybody wave goodbye to the audience. Everybody say goodbye.
See ya.